Hello everyone, welcome back to Taylor Talks. If you're scrolling through Facebook, stop. If you're scrolling through YouTube, stop. Instagram, stop. Take a moment because we have some good things to talk about today and some really important things. But let me go ahead and introduce my guest, Jackie Hug. Jackie, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Taylor, for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So Jackie, we'll get into what she does, but Jackie's a really amazing person and really knowledgeable about the career that she's in. And this is a very important subject because you can't get a loan, you can't get a car loan if you don't have the credit that you need. So Jackie, what do you do?
So my company is Credit Defenders Credit Restoration and Building. So basically, in a nutshell, what we do is we help people raise their credit scores so they can get qualified for financing, higher limit credit cards, really just to help them save money in life, insurance premiums, a lot goes along with that. So we basically help them remove non-compliant negative information and then help them build the positive credit they need to raise their scores.
Awesome. So how did you get into this career initially?
Well, back long time ago, a few years ago, I actually had poor credit myself and was getting married and buying a house and doing all those things that you do.
Yeah.
And went to buy a house. I was like, oh, by the way, my credit's not the greatest. So went through the process of restoring my own credit.
Yeah.
And fast forward a couple of years, my husband got into real estate as a real estate investor, and he was struggling with finding people that he could send people to, for their credit, because he works with people that, might be in foreclosure or doing things like that, and then they need help with their credit so they can find somewhere to find an apartment or be able to get a new home. And he's like, I don't have anybody to send them to. And he's like, have you ever thought about helping other people fix their credit? And I was like, no, not really. But I started doing some research, read some books, got certified, and really just fell in love with it and being able to help people be able to improve their credit. So.
Well, and that's awesome because, you've been there. So it's not like you've never been there. You've been there and you're helping other people, because it's not always someone who just doesn't want to pay a bill. It can be forgetfulness where, they have the money or they signed up for something they didn't didn't quite understand, or auto pay got messed up,
I get that one a lot. I also get people that go through divorce, job loss. They had illness and had medical bills and things show up. So, it's not just completely, like people that are irresponsible and just don't want to pay their bills. There's people that go through, all kinds of situations in life that are unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just, you can't help it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes you have no idea it's even happening until you get, a collection notice and you're like, oh, good, or someone calls you or something, So, and we've kind of talked about this, but why is this so important? Why is your job so important?
Well, I was going to touch about this for what we were just kind of saying too. Yeah. Another reason is some people just don't know how the credit game works. You know what I mean?
Some people, literally most people, almost everyone I've talked to, and that's why I'm so excited to have you on today, because I've talked to, oh my gosh, hordes of people, and we're all sitting there talking about it, and they're like, well, I think you have to do this, or I think you have to do this. So that's why I'm so excited to have you today, because it's not it's like a whole group. It's probably, I would dare to say 80% of people.
It's a lot, and either that or people try to overcomplicate it when really there's just a few simple things that you can do. And if you do these few simple things, you don't have to be in a bunch of debt and all that kind of stuff. So, but why it's important. So it's important, of course, 80% of the major life decisions you make usually are going to involve credit, because they're going to have to do with getting a mortgage, moving to an apartment, jobs will deny you in certain jobs if you have poor credit.
Because, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. Some, especially if it's more of in a financial industry.
Oh yeah.
They have to ask you. They have to get your permission when you apply for the job. But they will pull your credit, and if your credit's not good, you might not get that job.
Definitely.
Or a promotion even at the same company. So it also affects things like insurance premiums.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So if you have poor credit, you might not have anything on your record, but if you have poor credit, your insurance is going to be higher. And I'm not talking a couple dollars higher. I'm talking significantly higher.
Yeah.
It also helps, people that own small businesses. If you're looking to grow or leverage your credit to help grow your business and get funding, so much easier when your personal credit's in order. Not that you can't do it without it, but it just makes it easier. It makes it faster.
Yeah, it's a rough game.
So really, I mean, it's endless, really, like the benefits that you can have to having good credit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and the thing that's like scary to me is a lot of people nowadays actually don't care. I know that sounds awful, but like I used to work at a phone store, and people would come in, and I tell them like, hey, if this is on here, like this is gonna hurt your credit, and multiple people, I don't care. I'm like, huh?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's another thing that can prevent you from getting a phone sometimes.
Yeah,
because they run your credit, right?
Yes, phone stores, they run your credit, and it's so crazy to me when I hear that, because it takes a while to get it back up. Didn't you say like late payments are one of the hardest things?
Yes, late payments are one of the worst things you can do to your credit, especially if you have multiple late payments or extended late, like going beyond 30 days, you're going up to 60,
60,
90, 120, 150, and then a charge off.
Holy cow.
So yeah, I mean, one 30-day late can knock you 100 points.
Wow.
So if you're in the higher levels already, like up in the 700s, and you get one 30-day late payment, can knock you 100 points.
Holy cow, I never realized that.
Yeah, that late payment's going to impact your score for about 24 months.
And then it stays on for 24 months, like impacting it, or
so everything that you do on your credits, that generally, there's a few exceptions, but most stuff is going to stay on there for 7 years.
Okay, I see what you're
but
saying.
One 30-day late will impact you for about 24 months.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then the worse the late payments get, the longer they impact your score, and the longer the time goes on, it has less and less of an impact. So when you first get a 30-day late or a collection first hits your credit, that's when it has the highest impact on your score. That's why when you initially get a 30-day late, it can literally drop you 100 points.
Yeah.
And then as it gets 6 months older, 12 months older, your score will start to climb back up.
Yeah. So, and this is just a question I thought of just now. So what is your opinion on apps like Credit Karma and those apps where you can look at your credit score? Are they good to have, not good, doesn't matter?
Great question. So really, you just have to know the difference of things, really. Because Credit Karma is not a bad thing to have.
Okay.
So, because things like Credit Karma, they update really quickly. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good thing about having Credit Karma, is that literally, like, as soon as a collection hits you, they can notify you.
Yeah.
If it shows up, they only give you 2 of your bureaus. So they give you Equifax and TransUnion. So if something pops on there, you're going to know instantly.
Yeah.
But you just have to know that the scoring model that they use is not the same scoring model that lenders use.
Yeah.
Lenders use FICO. They use very specific
Definitely
models of FICO.
Okay.
So having Credit Karma to keep an eye on your stuff is absolutely fine, but you can't depend on those scores if you're gonna actually go apply for a car or a house or something.
Yeah,
like
it's not your exact score. It's
correct.
Like around.
I mean, but honestly, like, credit monitoring is not really expensive.
Yeah.
So I generally recommend to either have something like Smart Credit.
Okay.
Even though those are Vantage scores, you get a full 3-bureau report. So it has all 3 bureaus. It's side by side. It's very easy to read. They also have the monitoring part. You get identity theft insurance, all of that.
Oh, wow.
And it's really not that expensive. It's like $20 a month. Now, if you want your real lending scores, you have to do something like MyFICO, and the prices go up. But you can literally have a really good idea before you go to a lender, without them pulling your credit, exactly kind of where you stand. Like, they will, they give you specific, like, mortgage scores, auto scores, so you know where you are.
Yeah, most definitely, because I've talked to people, they've tried to, go and refinance, but they have to be at a normal amount, and it definitely helps. I know it's not exact on those, like Credit Karma, for example, but it's still, like you said, it gives you an idea, and you can see when things hit, or, kind of what's going on, so.
And you can't really, I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, if your Credit Karma score is 670 or a 750, you basically just take 50 points off there and that's what your FICO is. That's not necessarily true either.
Yeah.
Some people have higher, like me, my FICO score is higher than my Vantage score.
Huh.
So, I mean, it just depends on what is on your profile, you know, and when it goes through the scoring algorithm, you know, the things that you have on there and how they weigh when they go through that model.
Definitely.
To what scores you're going to have.
Definitely. So, do you have any tips or tricks or best advice that you could give?
Oh, I could go on for days.
So, I guess, what is your, okay, then you can do top 3 or top 1 best advice or tip.
Okay. Well, I would have to say my number 1 tip. Number 1, if you don't have a credit card, get one. Because if you want to have good credit, you need to have at least one installment loan. So like an auto loan, car loan, something like that. And there's installment builders you can add to, which is like another story. But you want to have that and at least two credit cards. Okay. And you want those reporting on-time payments and all that.
Yeah.
But my number 1 tip when it comes to a credit card, most people don't know this, is that the credit cards, so credit card utilization is 30% of your score. So it can be over 100 points. Over 100 points helping your score.
Yeah.
And it's all about how much of your balance that you're using as opposed to your credit limits, and it's aggregate over all your cards.
So I've heard 20%. Don't go over. Is that correct, or is it a different number now?
So basically, the old rule used to be 30%, right?
Yeah.
Really what 30% is, after you hit 30% and beyond, you dramatically start to drop off. But for your best scores, you really want to be, you know, between 0 and 3%. That's going to give you to the tip top. The lower the lower your balances are, keeps pushing you to the tip top. Now, once you hit like 20%, you're going to start dropping further. Once you hit 30%, dramatic. You start going higher than that, you're pretty much going to lose all that 30%. But the tip would be to, the credit cards report their balances on the end of statement date, not the due date. So I get people all the time, I'm like, your utilization's really high, it's like 60%. They're like, no, I pay my credit cards off in full every month. And I'm like, well, that's great. But whatever your balance is on the end of statement date is what is getting reported to the credit bureaus. And it's going to stay that way. They only report once a month.
So they're not paying it before that?
For the end of statement date. You can pay it before the end of the due date, and that's great. You're not going to get late fees. You're not going to be charged interest. But the credit bureaus don't know the difference.
So it needs to be a 0.
It needs to be a 0 or
less than 3%.
Less than 3% at the end of statement date.
Oh,
That is how you keep utilization very low. And then, you know, usually, you want to make a payment, 3 days before the end of statement date to make sure that your payment clears.
Yeah.
And that the balance is updated by the end of statement date. And then on that end of statement date, the Visa says, hey, credit bureaus, this is the balance on this credit card when they report it. And the payments have been on time and, all the information that they send over. And then they're not going to update that information again for 30 days. So if you're 90% maxed out on that credit card, it's going to stay on there. It doesn't matter if you pay it the very next day. For 30 days or till the next end of statement date, it's going to stay there. And you're losing all those points and you can't do anything about it.
Wow.
So that was probably my top tip. That's the biggest
really
one of the biggest things I see.
Yeah.
Is that people they don't know that, and it's really just a simple hack to be able to push your score to the very tip top. So if you're going to go apply for something, that's the first thing. I'm like, pay all those credit cards, either pay them all down and just don't use them at all to make sure that the next time it gets reported. Or honestly, I mean, it's a good habit if you can to really just do that all the time.
Yeah.
To make sure your utilization is always
before
low.
the end of statement.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And then after, a day or two after the end of statement date, just start using the card again.
Makes sense. Yeah, because one of my friends, so they have a card, but it's not through an app. Like, it's through their bank, they have to pay it.
Yeah.
But it's through a bill pay thing on their bank, and when they go and pay it, it's not like 3 or 4 days, it's a week. It's usually a week later. So for them, they have to be ready and paying that. So at the statement date, we'll say the 24th. They have to be ready a week before to put that in so it hits before then, right? Okay.
Yeah, because you want that payment to clear before the end of statement date.
Okay.
So
wow.
Yep, that's probably my number 1 trick.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and that's I like I said, a lot of people, everything's so confusing. Like, I didn't realize that 0 to 3% is better than, under 20. It's all, and everyone thinks that they know, like you said. Like,
right. Well, that was what they pushed for a really long time is, under 30. And, honestly, like, you really don't, I mean, it's best not even carry credit card balances because you're paying interest.
Yep.
So, but generally they calculate the interest on the actual due date. So you can pay, down to, say you want a small balance to report. I'm kind of a fan of that. People go back and forth on whether you should pay everything to 0 or pay it down and to have a small balance. I like to leave a small balance because I think it's better to let the credit bureaus know that you're using your credit. You're using it responsibly. You can handle whatever's.
That's a good point.
Because that's like building credit is like building trust with the credit bureaus.
Yeah.
Like, not only, like, if you get a bunch of credit cards, you just leave them at 0 all the time. They're like, well, they're scared to use their credit. They're afraid that they can't handle. But if you're using it, and using it, properly, then.
So here's another question I thought of. If you don't use a credit card, like, at all, so you got it, use it one time, you don't use it, can they cancel on you if you don't utilize it?
Yes, they can't close your card.
I had that happen.
Without notice.
I had that with JCPenney's.
I've had it happen, believe it or not. I had like an old Navy card.
Yeah.
And I didn't use it for like 2 years. And it's funny because I had told myself like a few months prior, I'm like, man, I should really just go buy, my kids some clothes or something.
Yeah, go and utilize it.
And it was over like the pandemic and stuff when nobody was really shopping and going shopping and doing all that. And I forgot about it again. And then I looked at my score and I'm like, oh, I dropped some points. It will drop you, by the way, closing an account. That's another trick. When your account's closed, it affects your history.
Yeah.
So it'll drop your score, and that goes for anything. Credit card, if you pay off a car, you think, oh, I paid off this debt. It'll drop your score because that account is closing. So anyway, so it closed, and I'm like, oh, man. So
I got a JCPenney's card because the day I got it, you got like 30% off, and I had just gone Christmas shopping. I'm like, oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll use this next year. Did not. And then it canceled on me.
Yeah.
Because I forgot I had it.
They'll drop your limits too. Usually, like if you have a card, like a JCPenney card, say you went and got some like appliances and you ended up getting qualified for like a higher limit card, like $5,000.
When I went and did it, I wasn't sure what I made off the top of my head, so I put the lowest possible so the card had the lowest possible limit. Because I didn't want a huge limit on the card.
Right, yeah.
So I'm like, what's the least I can say I make on here?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Well, credit limits, I mean, you technically want higher credit limits. It makes it easier to maintain your utilization.
Exactly. Well, and at the time, I'm like, I don't want to be tempted. Because, I'm always, because, like, my parents don't carry credit cards. But, they're all like, no credit card. So I was always so worried, even when we're in school. They're like, no credit cards, no credit. You know what I mean? So then I'm like, oh, no, I don't want a high limit. I don't want to.
Unfortunately, if you have the willpower and you can utilize credit cards, it's actually a lot better to use them. Because, well, for one thing, you really shouldn't be using debit cards and stuff to buy things online.
Yep.
Your information gets stolen. Charges get on your bank account. It takes a lot longer to recover that stuff than it does if it's on a credit card. If it's on a credit card, you just go on there and be like, theft, report it, and it's going to be gone. You're going to have your money back.
Definitely.
And
that's another good tip right there.
Like I said, I could probably go on for like 20 hours, but what was I going to say? I had another tip. It left me for, also, you literally get stuff for free using credit cards. People, you can travel for free, and you don't have to pay interest. You don't have to be in a ton of debt. You just have to maintain it and be able to
utilize
and manage it. So, but if you have to know yourself. If you can't manage it,
then don't get
into it. But just put another tip. If you don't want to use your credit cards all the time because you don't think you can manage it, put Hulu, Netflix, a very cheap subscription, a gym membership, something that's $20 or $30. Pay it off every month. You're going to have on-time payments. You're going to have low utilization. You don't have to be in a ton of debt to have good credit. You don't. That's a myth.
Yeah.
You can put $20 on there a month, and it's gonna work just as good as if you racked it up and paid it all off.
Yeah.
It's gonna work just as good because what you want is the on-time payments and low utilization. That's what you want.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Jackie. That was all wonderful information. Like I said, I I don't think a lot of people realize, a lot of the things you said. So that's why I'm so thankful that you were here today and talked about this stuff, because
Happy to be here.
it's important, and credit literally affects everyone. You don't have to be in the real estate industry. It's wherever you are, it's going to affect you.
Yep.
And if it hasn't affected you yet, you should probably talk to Jackie just in case. Have her give you some tips if you haven't done any of that yet. Oh my gosh, I want to be a child again. I felt so bad, but like all the, you know what I mean, all the adult responsibilities, all this credit stuff. But
Yeah.
that's why I have you to ask, though, right? Help me out.
That's right. I'm always happy to.
And before I forget, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to forget. That's why I have it in my notes. But Upkeep, no, that's why I wrote it down. But Upkeep we're still doing that vacation referral contest, and we are going to draw the name of the winner for the last quarter. So that was from January to March. We're drawing for that quarter, and Jackie's going to be the one drawing. But I want to explain how these people got in here. So this is open to existing customers or realtors, and what they do is they refer someone to us. The person they referred gets their onboarding appointment, actually signs up and purchases Upkeep. Then their name goes into the drawing, and they can win a free vacation. So we're going to do that right now. So I'm going to turn it a few times, and then you can go ahead and pick one of the little things out. Okay. They're all the same color, so I couldn't tell if they...
So nervous.
There we go.
All right.
Let's see who it is.
We're going to go here.
Perfect.
Drum roll, please. Ooh, Maria Partridge.
Yay, Maria! Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we'll be contacting you and reaching out, but congratulations. And anyone, if you did not get it this time, remember it is random, but there's always this next quarter. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here, Jackie. It was awesome.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Me too.
I'll have to come back.
Oh yes, most definitely. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you later.